Hey kiddos, thanks for clicking on this video and checking out my new YouTube channel, Chronicles and Collecting, where, as the name suggests, I am going to document my foray into figure collecting. This is sort of like an episode 0 channel introduction and sort of bring you up to speed with where I am in my collection right now. So let's do a quick introduction, just a quick discussion of the channel, and then we'll do a few quick micro reviews. So my name is Dan. I've been into anime and Gundam for quite a while. Last year I played one of the Super Robot Spirits games, and that not only kind of continued my interest in Gundam, but also made me interested in some of the older Super Robot shows from like the 60s and 70s and 80s, as well as sort of some of the Super Robot adjacent shows, which sort of led me in November to kind of purchase my first batch of figures. I bought a whole bunch of figures, but sort of due to some circumstances beyond my control, I opened up kind of the first like 3 or so, and then the rest sort of just started to pile up. I got back to my house a few weeks ago, and I was about ready to kind of tear into them, and I thought it might be fun to record, do some unboxings, some discussions, and just sort of kind of track my collection sort of from the beginnings of it and see kind of where that leads. As I mentioned, I'm really into the robots and the mechs and the Gundams, so my collection really focuses on 2 major lines. One is the Chogokin line, and the other is the Robot Spirits. The Chogokin line is a kind of premium line by Bandai that releases different figures from a bunch of different shows kind of over the course of the last 4 or 5 decades. They're typically kind of like bigger figures, in maybe like the 8 to 12 inch range. They often combine or transform or have some other, kind of interesting gimmick about them. They have a lot of die-cast metal. They're like very heavy, typically fairly expensive, and usually focused on the more major characters of a show. The Super Robot, there's also a Super Robot Chogokin, which is sort of like a subline of it, where although they do have some of the main characters, it's focused on a lot more of the minor characters or things that might not justify a full Soul Chogokin release. And then there's finally Chogokin DX, which is sort of everything that doesn't meet the requirements of those other 2 lines. Like I said, the Soul Chogokin are usually pretty big, probably like 10, like I said, 8 to 12 inches, more of like a 1 to 100 scale. Super Robot Chogokin is more of like a 6 inch, more of like a 1 to 144 scale. I mean, these are just kind of a quick rule of thumb. And then Chogokin DX can range. I've seen some super big ones, some smaller ones. You see some stuff from non-robot shows in there as well. So there's some fun stuff there as well as figures from the Macross line, which is a series that I really enjoy. The other line that I'm really interested in is the Robot Spirits. This is another Bandai line, typically like 6 inch figures, and it covers kind of more recent, kind of typically more real robot or mech shows, primarily Gundam. I will talk about some other series that are in the Robot Spirit line, but the overwhelming majority of the ones that we'll be unboxing in this channel are going to be Gundam. There's also a subline of that called Metal Robot Spirits, and those are just sort of like higher end versions. They usually do them for like the most popular Gundams. They have a lot of die cast specifically in the joints and kind of like the skeleton of the figure, to allow better posability, just higher quality stuff. Some of them have cool effects parts or weapons or some other kind of cool addition to sort of justify the kind of higher quality, higher price tag. So with that in mind, kind of those are the lines that I'm going to be collecting. There will be some other ones, kind of here or there. We'll address them as they come up. But again, with that in mind, what kind of content we'll cover. So I discuss what kind of videos will be on the channel as well. So there's going to be sort of 3 major types of videos. One are going to be the standard kind of unboxings, and those are going to be like the episodes, chronicling the collection from start to end. Typically do one figure unboxing per video aims to be about 10 minutes or so. And in addition, I'm not just going to like review the figure, twist the joint, tell you how many degrees the head turned. What I'm really trying to do is use it as a springboard to discuss the show in question, kind of maybe give a little bit of a primer of the show, mostly spoiler free, maybe something that might be discussed in the first episode or so of the show or the back of the DVD, just to kind of give some context to the show, a brief description of the character, sort of why I like the show, why I like the figure, as well as, like I said, a little bit of a plot synopsis. Sometimes there are some figures that have like cool weapon accessories that you kind of buy separately, so I'll typically do that at the same time as the figure. And sometimes there's just sort of like a companion figure. Robot Spears has lately been doing quite a few kind of sets where you can recreate, kind of a historic scene from the show. So I'll probably deal those together and try to, recreate that pose. The second type of video that I'm going to be doing is sort of like an unpacking. A lot of times I'll place a big order, sometimes like a used lot or some damage box stuff. There's some sites that will hold on to your figures and then just mail them to you every like 4 to 6 months, to just make shipping easier. So anytime I get kind of like a box in the mail with sort of like 8 to 12 figures, I'm gonna, just open it up for the first time in front of you guys, and kind of get my initial reactions, and also serve as a little bit of a preview of things to come. So with all that in mind, I said I would kind of bring you up to speed with my collection. These were the first 3 figures that I bought and I opened. So we'll take a quick look at them. I'm not going to get too into the details as far as like the shows and the characters, because for each one of these 3 figures I do have a kind of companion figure that I'm going to be unboxing shortly, so we'll kind of deal with those together. But let's take a quick look at these. So first, and all 3 of these are a Soul Chogokin line. So the first one is GX68, the King of Braids Gao Gaigar. The second is GX85, Titanus. And finally, we have the Dragon Zord, which is Soul Chogokin GX78. So why don't we zoom in on these and discuss them a little further. Start off with the 2 on the right here. So we have Titanus, we have the Dragon Zord. For anyone who's not aware, these are the robots that the Power Rangers use in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, known in Japan as Zayu Ranger. I'm sure I mispronounced that. In Japan, the Dragon Zord is called Dragon Caesar, and Titanus is called King Brachion, which sounds really cool because it kind of sounds like he has a life outside of just sort of like chilling in a volcano and waiting for the Power Rangers, to like call him like 3 times during the course of the show. I'm kind of like interested to know sort of what his kingdom is like and what he does as king. Unfortunately, the show does not get into that. So let's check these out. So Titanus was a figure I kind of just bought because I bought the Dragon Zord and they had it in stock, but it wound up actually being like my favorite one. It's just like, it's really big. I really like, it's got this die cast. Just all the details on it are just like super nice. They're super clear. The paint is super nice. If you have the Megazord, it can dock inside of the Titanus, which I don't have yet, but maybe could be featured in a future video. Keep your eyes out for that. And for anybody interested, there's a US line of Power Rangers figures called the Legacy line, and this Titanus is actually the same mold as that, just with some sort of added die-cast metal. The other Soul Chogokins are not the same as the Bandai Legacy line, but I thought that was kind of interesting because the Legacy Titanus sells for about $1,000 on the secondary market, and you can get a Soul Chogokin one for about $250, and it's basically just strictly better. The Dragon Zord is probably one of my favorite all-time robots. Green Ranger was always my favorite. This is kind of the figure that I thought I had when I was a kid, but looking at the version of the figure I had as a kid was nowhere near as nice as this. And again, I unfortunately don't have the Megazord right now, but this will combine with the Megazord, and then you can make you can either make the Dragon Zord or or the full combination, and then you could dock that in the tightness as well. And then finally on the right here we have the King of Brays, Gal Gaigar. This is another transforming suit. This is 4 robots that combine into one, which is a little weird because in the show the other robots don't actually do anything. They just only show up to combine, which sort of questions why we even have to have the combination sequence other than the fact that it's super cool. What was not super cool was trying to transform this figure, which took me at least 2 or 3 hours. It has like a 30-page instruction booklet that's entirely in Japanese. I had to watch like 2 or 3 other videos online to kind of figure out how to do it. The Soul of Shogoken engineers are like super faithful to the original show, so it's like, so for instance, this like train, you could only have it enter from, you could only kind of connect it to the base from the same angle that it's done on the show, otherwise like it won't work. So just all kind of that stuff adds a little bit of frustration, so I'm not going to disconnect it and reconnect it. This figure, you know, it's nice, you know, it's got some cool details around here. I wish it was a little bit more, I wish the painting was a little bit more interesting, or there's a little bit more, you know, kind of details like you see on the tightness. It just looks a little bland up close. You know, it just kind of looks like almost like an unpainted model kit. And, you know, for the price, it was, I think, almost $300. I would, you know, hope for a little bit more. You know, that being said, I still really like Gal Gaigar, the show. There's going to be an upcoming video where we'll get into it in more details. There's a lot of Gal Gaigar figures to come, so we'll discuss the show sort of at that time. But anyway, thanks so much for checking out the first video, the episode 0 as I'm calling it, and please be sure to join me for the proper episode 1, where we are going to check out the Metal Robot Spirits Destiny Gundam, as well as the Wings of Light effects part. I'm launching the channel with this video, and there'll probably be about 3 or 4 other ones up, and then starting next week, every Wednesday, there'll be a new unboxing video, and probably once a week, there'll be one of the unpacking videos. Thanks again for checking it out, and keep collecting.